MTG and me, this is Charles, and today we're going to take a look at the Magic the Gathering Game Night product. A new product by Wizards of the Coast that lets you play Magic with 2 to 5 players right out of the box. Alright, let's go. So, Magic the Gathering Game Night is kind of an interesting product. It looks as though it was designed as a way to bring Magic the Gathering experience to friends and family in a convenient package, in the words of Wizards of the Coast themselves. Within the box, they provide you with 5 pre-constructed decks, each associated with a specific color, iconic piece of the color pie, and each of them includes 1 new custom card built for Game Night. From my perspective, the custom cards built for Game Night are going to provide the most interest to existing Magic players, again because they're mechanically unique to the box. Additionally, the box stresses that the decks, though they're 60 card constructed decks, are designed to provide some balanced gameplay for multiplayer battles. Now there's a bunch of supplementary items in here, including spin down life counters for each of the colors, 5 platforms, which I wouldn't consider really a premium include, it's just a chunk of cardboard, 5 quick reference cards, which would be nice for newer players of Magic to kind of give it a board game type experience, a rule book, and some double-sided tokens. So let's open her up and see what it looks like. So right off the bat, the first thing I'll say is that the box was definitely eye-catching. I had actually forgotten that this product was coming out until I saw it on the shelf at my local game store. And it definitely stands out. It looks like a board game. I mean, in reality it's not, it's Magic, but it definitely looks like a board game. It's got a board game feel, and the 5-sided kind of box really just embodies that feeling of Magic. So if you're a little bit familiar with Magic, you'll be like, okay, clearly 5 colors, 5 Magic, pretty neat. I mentioned there's a rule book in here. It's printed on fairly heavy duty paper. We go into what, about 32 pages here. Reviews the contents in the box, the tokens, counters, etc. So this is interesting, not something I realized. It says each single color deck can be divided into 2 30 card subdecks with the expansion symbols. So the Game Night expansion symbol and the Magic 19 expansion symbol. This is really neat. I guess it adds a lot of complexity to this. I think it just adds replayability without having to reprogram the decks in the box. I guess we'll have to take a deeper look into it, but that's kind of the initial impression here. I always like products that have the deck list included. It just helps a lot. And then we go a little more in depth about how to play Magic. Nice, they're even tackling the stack and how it works. So really reinforcing in detail all of the actual phases and steps in those phases. So then we have our cardboard punch outs, which represent your life totals, where you're going to put your spin down counter and then your +1/+1 counters, which are reversible. Kind of neat. And we got the 5 decks, each with their own spin down counter. Again, minor point, all the supplementary products usually have this planeswalker symbol on them. It would be really nice if we just had some spin down counters that were a little more collectible and had, say, the Magic Game Night symbol on them. But I understand this are probably just like created in bulk, and there's literally thousands of these they can rely on to use from the warehouse. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the decks in particular, starting with red, I guess. Here's your quick reference card. So reminder for your phase levels. It's interesting, kind of a rating of the deck itself: speed, creatures, spells, complexity. Here's our mechanically unique Mythic or rare for the red deck, Goblin Goliath. So this is a 6 mana, 4 and 2 red Goblin mutant with 5/4 power toughness. It says whenever it enters the battlefield, create a number of 1/1 red Goblin creature tokens equal to the number of opponents you have. So scales to a multiplayer game. Then 3 and a red, tap. If a source you control would deal damage to an opponent this turn, it deals double that damage to a player instead. So interesting card, can be very strong, and is going to provide some advantage in the game for sure. Here's a reprint from the recent Ixalan block, Captivating Crew. Then we got a copy of Siege Gang Commander, most recently printed in Dominaria, but unique to the game box. Here's a Core 19 rare, Demanding Dragon. Another, oh, 2 copies of Goblin Trash Master. Wow, you're really powering up goblins in this guide. Then a Shivan Dragon. And the rest are commons and uncommons, kind of on theme, just a medley, utility creatures, combat buffs. It's definitely a goblins deck. So game night, you got 2 copies of Bombard, 2 copies of Dragon Fodder, 2 copies of Rolling Thunder, a Seismic Elemental, 2 Tormenting Voices, 2 Eager Constructs, 2 Howling Golems, the card draw in red I guess, 2 Welder Automatons. Let's go to the green deck. Here's our quick reference for the deck. Grow Fierce. Creatures are clearly its strong point. Spells and complexity are quite low. Alright, so here is the mechanically unique Mythic, Avatar of Growth. This is a 6 mana, so 4 and 2 green. Elemental Avatar, 4/4. It says this spell costs 1 less to cast for each opponent you have. So in a 5-player game, this could actually cost you as little as 2 green, which is pretty sweet. It's got Trample, and it says whenever it enters the battlefield, each player searches their library for up to 2 basic lands, puts them on the battlefield, and shuffles their library. Alright, well that helps everyone else along in the game. Still pretty interesting. Then we have a set symbol unique copy of Galta, Primal Hunger. A copy of Nissa's Revelation. Then we got a Gigantosaurus from Core 19. Goreclaw from Core 19. Palaka Worm from Core 19. For the game night, copy of Jungle Delver. 3 copies of Llanowar Elves, unique to the box, although not really. An Overcome. 2 Seek the Wilds. 2 Thrashing Brontodons, that's a good card. 2 Eager Constructs. 2 Howling Golems, similar to red. Manolith. Oh nice, a copy of Ronas's Monument with the legendary frame. Alright, so let's go to the blue deck. So, the blue deck, Take to the Skies. Apparently it has some complexity, creatures are a focus, but speed and spells are in consideration. Alright, here's our mechanically unique Mythic, Inspiring Sphinx. This is a 7 mana, 5 and 2 blue, 5/5 Sphinx with flying. It says whenever Sphinx enters the battlefield, draw cards equal to the number of opponents you have. So this is interesting. This might be playable in some commander decks too. I like this one. And then for 4 mana, 3 and a blue, we can create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. So then we have a Soulblade Djinn. I think this was most recently reprinted in Origins. Copy of Zahid, Djinn of the Lamp from Dominaria. And then Core 19 Metamorphic Alliteration, and one with the machine. So there should be some other artifacts in here. Copy of Sai, Master of Thopterus, that's nice. And then our Core 19 Commons and Uncommons. And then within the Game Night unique cards, we got an Advanced Stitchwing. This is from Shadows or Eldritch Moon maybe. We got an Air Elemental, actually 2 Air Elementals, 2 copies of Claustrophobia, 2 Favorable Winds, we're definitely dealing with flyers here, Hydro Lash, copy of Reckless Scholar, 2 Whirler Rogues, nice, 2 copies of Pilgrim's Eye, 2 copies of Snare Thopter. Moving on to the black deck. Black deck's called Rise from the Grave. I suspect that's actually a namesake card in there. Higher on the spells and complexity rating. Alright, so we've got a Rod Hulk. This is a 7 mana, 5 and 2 black zombie, 5/5 with menace. And it says whenever Rod Hulk enters the battlefield, return up to X target zombie cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the number of opponents you have. That one seems pretty strong. It seems like it could be good. We got a copy of Languish, Liliana's Mastery, nice. Even a Death Baron, sweet. We got a Graveyard Marshal and an Open the Graves. Then for the Game Night specific cards, we got a Bone Splinters, 2 Cruel Revivals, a Fleshbag Marauder. I love that art. Copy of Gruesome Fate, 2 Lord of the Accursed, nice. The once rare Planeswalker deck common, Tattered Mummy, now reprinted I think the 3rd or 4th time. 2 copies of Thalad's Soothsayer, nicely. We've got 2 copies of Zulaport Cutthroat included, 2 copies of Filigree Familiar. The white deck's called Assemble for Battle. It's supposed to be a very fast deck with low complexity. Alright, the front card is Militant the Angel. This is a 5 mana, 3 and 2 white, 3/4 angel with flying and lifelink. And it says whenever Militant Angel enters the battlefield, create a number of 2/2 white knight creature tokens with vigilance equal to the number of opponents you attacked this turn. That threshold there is pretty key. Opponents you attack, not just the number of opponents. Still, a pretty interesting card. Then we got a copy of Always Watching. This is a nice one right now, based on its play in Standard. Benelish Marshall, also great for White Weenies type decks. Likewise, Cleansing Nova, also a solid card. Mentor of the Meek, copy of Valiant Knight. Once we get into the game night specific cards, we got an Aerial Responder, 2 Bright Reprisals, 2 Call the Cavalry, Neverdawn Champion, 2 Fan Bearers, copy of Inspired Charge, copy of Inspiring Captain, 2 Mesa Unicorns, 2 Sarah Angels, here's another Angel, Subjugator Angel. So that's a quick look at the Magic the Gathering Game Night product. I think it's really targeted at people just starting into Magic, but if you can get a reasonably good deal on this, like I paid $44.99 Canadian, and I've seen them on Amazon or at some local game stores in the US in the $30 to $35 range. I think there's enough in here to kind of keep you interested, maybe to introduce the game to some new players of Magic, or heck, to even just pull out a couple of the cards you might be able to play. Thanks for liking, commenting, and subscribing, and as always, thanks for watching.